Let's get to the final topic on this edition of the Rock News Roundup podcast, and that is that 2024's biggest selling rock album. Okay, so this comes from Ultimate Classic Rock, who's reporting that the biggest rock album of 2024 is Fleetwood Mac's Rumours. The biggest rock album of 2024 is a 47-year-old album. Fleetwood Mac's Rumours was the highest charting rock album on Billboard's year-end chart, coming in at number 34. And when looking at the top 200 albums that made this list, 29 of the top 200 were from rock artists, all but 5 of these releases. All but 5 of the rock artist releases, so out of that 29, were greatest hits compilations, including greatest hits compilations from Foo Fighters, Linkin Park, Aerosmith, Beatles, Blink-182, and more. And then in terms of original albums that weren't compilations, no surprise there. Some of the biggest rock albums of 2024 were Nirvana's Nevermind, AC/DC's Back in Black, Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory, and then Sublime's self-titled record from 1996. And okay, this has always been a really tough topic for me to talk about in any capacity because I love these albums. Okay, these are some of the greatest albums of all time, some of the greatest bands of all time. But I do think that this is kind of showing the sad state of the rock music world in 2024. Okay, I love Rumours. I love Fleetwood Mac. I love Rumours. I have my own copy of Rumours. In fact, I think I have 2 copies of Rumours. Okay, every rock fan has a copy of Rumours. Okay, it's like Mike Myers said in the first Wayne's World with Peter Frampton's Frampton Comes Alive. If you lived in the suburbs, you were issued it. Okay, it came in the mail with samples of Tide. Okay, so everybody's got a copy of Rumours. Okay, I understand that it's one of the best albums of all time. Fleetwood Mac, one of the best bands of all time, along with all these other bands that are on this list. But it's just so depressing that when you have, the top rock albums of 2024, it's albums that are 47 years old or bands that are 30 years old, and that there's no new bands and no new music that can penetrate those year-end lists when it comes to sales, when it comes to influence, when it comes to cultural impact or anything like that. And like with the plethora of new bands out there, it's just really weird that there's nobody really making an impact on the level of these classic artists. I'm not really sure if it's the same across all genres. I think maybe in the pop music world, a lot of more current artists are the ones selling records, whether that be the big ones like Taylor Swift or Sabrina Carpenter or Chappell Roan or any of those even newer artists. I feel like for pop artists, they continue to dominate those charts. But then something with rock is just not computing. And the thing is that as a musician, as a rock music fan, I absolutely hate it when people are saying, oh, there's no good rock bands anymore. There's no good bands anymore. There's no good anything anymore. That is absolute bullshit, because there are more bands, like bands of all different sizes, all bands of all different kinds emerging now. There are more than ever. I listen to them all the time here on the channel for different reviews, for different things. I love new music. And don't get me wrong, I love my classic bands, right? Like you see Oasis, the Beatles. I have them all up here on my wall. I have my Foo Fighters t-shirt on here right now, but I still love the discovery of new music. Even, a band like Don Broco, who are a band they're not even new anymore. They're on their 4th record, but I love new music. I love up and coming rock bands, and I always crave new music. I still listen to the classics, Oasis, Foo Fighters, Beatles. This stuff is always going to be in my rotation, but I love adding to that new music, the discovery of new music, whether it be listening to new music or writing new music. I always love the discovery of new bands. There's so many bands out there that are doing great things. You just go on Spotify, you'll have no problem finding them, whether it be all the different genres too. Like if you're a classic rock fan, there are newer bands out there, bands like Greta Van Fleet, although I know they're a Led Zeppelin ripoff. Greta Van Fleet to Rival Sons if you're a classic rock fan. If you're more into alt rock, if you're more into metal, if you're more into all these different genres of rock, there are more bands out there making amazing music now than ever before. So I will always die on that hill that there's awesome new music being made at all times and are still being made in 2024. I look forward to discovering more new music in 2025. But the thing about it now is that the difference with these bands that are up and coming now, or the bands that have been around for the last little while, and bands that are obviously still selling more from past decades, is that music now is too segmented. These bands now, these bands from back in the day, whether it be older bands from the 60s and 70s like the Beatles and AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, whatever you want to call it, and then, fast forward to the 90s, with Pearl Jam and Radiohead and Oasis and Foo Fighters and Soundgarden and all those bands, they became the next generation of those classic rock bands, and they will never die. They will always be amazing. But they were able to make their mark in a time where the music world was a lot more holistic and less segmented. You could put a song on the radio and it become a huge hit. And those are still the songs that dominate radio today. If you put on a rock radio station in 2024, now going into 2025, you'll hear Led Zeppelin, you'll hear Oasis, you'll hear Pearl Jam, you're going to hear those older bands sprinkled in with some new stuff. But it's nowhere near what it used to be. And although I love discovering new music, there's no possible way for these days for those bands to become as big as these bands that have made this biggest selling rock albums list on Billboard in 2024. So as much as it's the truth, and I understand where it's coming from, it's actually extremely disappointing, extremely depressing when this ends up being the case, because, I enjoy new music. I think, again, Rumours, all these albums, absolute classics, will always be classics. But maybe it's time for us to move on a little bit as music fans. And I think that if you're a music fan or a rock fan who's out there saying there are no good bands out there, there's no new bands, that is that's absolutely false, because there are new bands playing in the bar around the corner from you. There are new bands on Spotify. There are new bands all over the internet. You just got to dig a little bit deeper to find them. Not even that deep. I think with Spotify, you can get recommendations all the time for great rock music. So it's a sad state of affairs in 2024. In my opinion, that Fleetwood Mac, Rumours, again, classic album, love it, would be the biggest selling rock album of the year. I find that to be a little bit sad considering how much amazing new music is out there. But I guess that's just the state of affairs in 2024. But you can let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know on social media at Nick Tuna Music whether you think it's kind of sad that Fleetwood Mac, a 47-year-old album, Rumours, is still the biggest selling rock album of 2024. I think it's kind of sad. As much as I love Fleetwood Mac and I love Rumours, I just wish that more people would just explore themselves, spread their wings, branch out a little bit, and listen to more new music.